Hello everyone, Sam here. So in this plant walk I've just come out to one of our local foraging spots to find a load of yarrow. So yarrow is a herb that we forage for, get huge amounts in the summer. It's evergreen, so the leaves can be used all year round. It's a great idea to find an area close to you where there's loads of yarrow, so you can get the leaves all year round because they've got so many uses. The flowers come into season in the summer, from about late June all the way through to late August, and they grow absolutely prolifically across the UK. They're super easy to find. There's going to be some close to you. So here is the yarrow. So you can see, if I get close, the yarrow head, it's got an umbrella like head, and the leaves, you can see all of that. The leaves are like a fern shaped leaf like that. So there is all the yarrow plants. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to head home, and when I get home I'm going to talk a little bit more about what the medicinal properties of yarrow are and how to actually turn it into medicine, to turn it into tinctures and teas, and poultices and things like that. Hello everyone, so I've just got back from getting the yarrow. So in this section of the plant walk, I just want to talk you through kind of what the real medicinal properties of yarrow are, what we use it for, and just to go through a couple of very simple ways of preparing it. So yarrow, the Latin for yarrow, Achillea, it comes from Achilles, the demigod of Greek myth, and the myth goes that Achilles always took yarrow into battle with him as a field dressing for him and his soldiers. Whenever they got wounded, they would pack the wounds with yarrow leaves to stop the bleeding and to prevent infection. And the Roman army and the Greek army did that likewise, after Achilles, and that's something that Western science has now proven and validated in terms of its wound cleaning and healing ability. We'll cover that in a minute. But yarrow is one of those herbs. I mean, it's definitely one of my favourite herbs because it's one of the herbs we use more than any other, both in the domestic setting for our family, and also clinically with yarrow as a licensed tincture, a manufactured tincture and things like that. And it grows prolifically. Yarrow grows absolutely abundantly in Britain and Europe, so you can find a good source of it so easily, growing wild to you. Okay, it grows prolifically. You'll be able to find it. The beauty of yarrow is that the leaves of the yarrow plant is evergreen. So you can go out and get the leaves 12 months of the year, which means it's brilliant. If you know where the yarrow is growing, you can go there pretty much whenever you want to harvest leaves to use, and you can make fresh teas out of those leaves. You can use them for herbal baths, you can use them for first aid. The flowers come into season in the summer, and once it gets to late August, September, they'll be disappearing. So it's well worth going out and getting it while the flowers are in season, so you can dry those and use those. The only thing to emphasize about yarrow is that because they've got a big surface area, they hold a lot of toxins and a lot of chemicals. So you don't want to forage them close to things like roads, railways, big farms or factories or things like that. You want to make sure you forage them in a very clean environment, away from any kind of industry or things like that. So the only other thing to emphasise about yarrow is that there's one lookalike threat with poison hemlock. It's actually nothing like it once you know what you're looking for, but just a cursory glance, they can look quite similar in terms of the umbrella head. And poison hemlock is toxic. We don't want to consume that. So the first way around that is to know how to identify yarrow properly. And the easiest way is that yarrow doesn't ever get above 3 foot in height. It never gets above 3 foot in height. Whereas hemlock will get to 5, 6, 7 foot in height. So there's a big disparity in the size. The other thing is that the stems of yarrow are slightly hairy. They have a hairy coating, and if you snap the stem in half, it's solid. So it has a hairy stem and a solid stem. Poison hemlock has a hairless stem, and it's hollow. So you can guarantee you don't get a mix up by looking at, is it hairy and is it solid? Okay, and you can work it out. And the other way is to get a plant identification app, like picture this, and then you can be 100% sure. Take a photo of it on the app, and it will check it for you, and that way you've got no risk of misidentification. So what do we use yarrow for? Yarrow it's in ancient British herbal medicine, it was called a cure-all because it had so many benefits. I think the area that we use it most in is as an immunity and winter infection or respiratory tonic herb, and also as a skin tonic herb. So it's one of those herbs that you want to turn to at the first sign of infection. If you can feel the nose blocking up, mucus congestion, you can feel a cold or bronchitis or anything congestive, sticky, infected, mucousy kinds of winter infections, yarrow is brilliant because it's an immune stimulant, and it's a brilliant decongestion and expectorant. So it clears out mucus, it opens up the airways, and it alleviates symptoms. So at the first sign of a winter cold or winter infection, drink lots of strong, hot cups of yarrow tea. You can add in other herbs like peppermint or sage or thyme or rosemary or echinacea. But we always use yarrow, in our household. As soon as one of us gets a cold coming on, hot yarrow teas. It's also brilliant as an antihistamine. It's a powerful, clinically proven antihistamine. So for things like hay fever, pet allergies, household allergies, dust allergies, mite allergies, those kinds of things, yarrow helps to dial down the histamine response to alleviate how bad the reaction is. And because it's an expectorant and because it's a decongestion, it helps to clear the symptoms of allergic reactions. And not only is it reducing the severity, it's actually alleviating the symptoms. So it's brilliant as an antihistamine, natural antihistamine in that capacity. But I think knowing it in terms of its cold and infection alleviating benefits, that's where you get a really big gain. So if you've got it in tincture form, which we're going to make in a minute, got it dried, then just turn to it as soon as you notice those infections coming along. The second area is as a digestive tonic herb. Yarrow is a very, very powerful antispasmodic. So it stops spasming and cramping in the gut. So it's brilliant for things like IBS, bloating, wind, cramping, colicky pain, gastric cramps, anything where you get uncomfortable gastric symptoms, particularly in a couple of hours after you eat. Sipping on lots of strong hot yarrow tea or yarrow tincture is a brilliant way of alleviating those kinds of digestive symptoms. It's also very good for diarrhea. It will reduce the severity of diarrhea, so it's great for managing that as well. It increases digestive capacity. So it's really good if you've got sluggish digestion, if you're never hungry, it's a digestive stimulant, and it also increases the volume of nutrients we extract from the food we eat. So it means we get more vitamins, more minerals, more iron, etc. from any given meal. So it's great as a digestive tonic herb. The area where it's famed is another area is as a cardiovascular, a heart tonic herb, because it increases peripheral circulation. It increases blood to and blood flow away from the periphery. So it's one of the most important herbs for managing things like chilblains, varicose veins, hemorrhoids, Raynaud's disease, poor circulation. Wherever there's pooling blood, where there's blood stagnating, yarrow will stimulate it. It will get it moving again. So it's brilliant in that capacity. It lowers blood pressure. It's great for cold conditions. If you get cold hands, cold feet, cold extremities, those kinds of things, it's really, really good for that. So a circulatory stimulant. It's used as a female tonic herb. It regulates the menstrual cycle. It alleviates heavy, heavy, long, painful periods. It alleviates the emotional symptoms of things like PMS, irritability, anger, short-temperedness, emotional, tearful kind of behaviour and emotions. So it's a real female tonic herb. And it's also good for the urinary system. It flushes out it's a diuretic, so it flushes the kidneys. So it's good for clearing uric acid. So it's good for alleviating the symptoms of things like arthritis, rheumatism, gout, and things like that. And it's a brilliant first aid. Like I say, it's a first aid tonic herb. It's exceptional. I remember once being at a bike park where a guy cut his thigh really badly on the spokes of his wheel, and not having a first aid kit, and we literally packed the wound with fresh yarrow leaves, which were growing fortunately on the side of the trail in the woods. We packed the wound with yarrow leaves, bound it in a ripped t-shirt, and it worked wonders. So it's great first aid. Okay, so how do you use it? So the first thing is we want to dry it. Okay, because although the leaves are available all year round, obviously the flowers aren't. So you want to get big bundles. In our drying shed, we've probably got 20 of these, I would imagine, right now. So just tie them in bunches about that size. You don't want them much bigger than that, or else they're not going to dry out. Just suspend them somewhere warm and dry, no dampness, plenty of airflow, and leave those for about 3 or 4 weeks until they're bone dry. Okay, the best way of doing that is when they're bone dry, the stems should just snap like really dry sticks, and the flowers and leaves should crumble if you rub them in your hands. Okay, so dry them like that. Once they're dry, just take off the flowers, take off the leaves, and stick them in a kilner jar, and then you can use those, all the way through the year to make teas or herbal baths or herbal steam or things like that. So firstly is to dry them. Yarrow is excellent, as I said, as a hot tea. I think hot teas are probably the best way of taking yarrow. You can use the leaves, and you can use the flowers, and you can even use the small stems. And all you need to do there is two teaspoons, or about 3 teaspoons of fresh, or about 2 teaspoons of dried into a cup. Pour over boiling water. Let it infuse for 5, 6, 7 minutes. Strain it out and drink. And you can drink. At the first sign of a cold or an infection, I'd be drinking a strong cup of yarrow tea at least every 60 minutes, at least every hour and a half, all through the day. Alleviate the symptoms, clear the congestion, elevate immunity. So dry it, make tea out of it, drink tea fresh, drink tea dried. Okay. The second thing you want to do is, I think it's well worth making yarrow tincture, because that's a really simple way of getting the benefits of yarrow in a very concentrated form. It's great for managing colds. It's great for digestive spasms, distension, bloating, IBS. It's great to lower blood pressure. It's great for chilblains, varicose veins, etc., etc. It's also super, super simple. So all you need is to get, ideally, the heads. You want the heads of the yarrow. And you just take them off. You can use them fresh, or you can use them dried. And all the instructions for making yarrow tincture is in the yarrow herb profile on the Ayurvedic Mentor webpage. Okay, so fill up the jar about 2/3 loosely packed with yarrow flowers, and then get your vodka. You want your vodka to be about 37.5 to 40%. Because the vodka acts as the preserver and also the extractor of the medicinal properties. So all you do, fill that up, pour in the vodka all the way to the top. Okay. Make sure all of the lit flowers are covered. Seal it, and that's your tincture. Okay. What So you need to leave that for about 4 weeks in a dark cupboard to macerate, which is where all the medicinal properties come out of the herb into the alcohol. Once the 4 weeks have passed, you just strain the herbs out, put the tincture into a dry, sterilised bottle, date it, label it, and you take the first sign of infection or any of the uses where it's indicated, 5 mils of that tincture 2 to 3 times a day. It's a great way. Tinctures are incredibly strong, incredibly concentrated, very, very efficient and effective way of taking any herb, particularly yarrow. If you're using dried herb, it's less important, but if you're using fresh herb, what you do need to do is every day you need to invert that and put it back again. So every day you turn it over the other way. So Monday it's like that, Tuesday it's like that, Wednesday it's like that, Thursday it's like that. So that the herbs are at the top at the bottom, and then the herbs that are at the bottom and then at the top. So they're always submerged in the alcohol, because if the herbs come above the level of the alcohol and they're in the air for too long, they can go off and they can create bacteria. Okay, it doesn't matter if you're using dried herbs because there's no moisture. If you're using fresh herbs, they need to make sure that they're always submerged under the alcohol. And also the alcohol level will probably drop as the herb absorbs it. So every few days, just open it up and top it up. So I actually need a bit more in that. I'll get the other bottle out in a minute and top that up. Okay, so you've got your tincture. And then the last way of using, which is if you've got kids or grandkids, it's just an exceptional first aid kit. So once you've got your yarrow dried, you can crumble them into a powder and you can sprinkle that powder onto a wound and bandage it, or you can make a poultice. So in here I've got fresh yarrow leaves and flowers, and all you want to do is get a little bit of water just so it makes a paste, get your pestle and just give it a really good bashing just to really lubricate it and release. Like just from doing that now, I can smell that aroma coming out. Okay, so just make a bit of a paste. And then if you imagine you've got a nasty cut or graze or burn or wound or anything like that on your arm or anywhere on your body, I'm going to get my plaster first. So you can use a bandage, you can use plaster, doesn't really matter. All you do is you get your yarrow leaves, you put it literally on the wound. So because yarrow is antibacterial, not only is it safe to do it, but it stops infections setting into the wound. So if you've got a wound, cut, scrape, bruise, burn, anything like that, get the yarrow, put it onto the wound, really press it in. If it's a big wound, you can stick it into the wound as a plug, and then you can get a crepe bandage and wrap it. You can get cling film, or what we usually do with the kids, you just get a plaster like that, stick the plaster on, and that holds the poultice in place. And that is clinically proven to speed up how quickly the wound heals. It speeds up the quality of the healing. It prevents infection. So that is a brilliant, exceptional way as a first aid remedy for any open wound, laceration, burns, etc. So top ways for using yarrow: dry them for teas, use them fresh as teas, make tincture out of them, and use it as a first aid remedy for lacerations. It's such a great herb. It's one of my favourite herbs. We use it all the time. Particularly important as we move into cold and flu season. I can't emphasise enough how important it is at the first sign of infection, drinking lots of strong, hot yarrow tea. So that's the Yarrow Plant Walk. More detailed information about the properties and uses of yarrow can be found on the Yarrow herb profile on the herb profile section of the webpage. If you've got any questions, then let us know on the Facebook page or email us and we'll get back to you.